All right, awesome. Welcome back. Thanks, Attila, for joining us. We're going to cover more in depth how to outline a nonfiction book for experts. And was having a conversation with Attila here, and thought it might be valuable for our subscribers and sharing it for anyone else that might be looking to write and publish and promote a book here in 2020. So, Attila, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me on, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So anytime we look at outlining a book, that's really the first step. That's the foundation. So I want to go through a couple of things, but first want to get some context to you and your business and your ideal client and things like that, Attila. So let's first start off, just so also everyone else can get a context. Tell me a bit about what is your initial idea for a book? What is the book that you have in mind?
Sure. The people that I would like to help are people involved in continuous improvement. So they're professionals in the field. They're people that have titles like Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, Lean Practitioner. These are people that I feel like I could help, especially if they work in a non-manufacturing environment.
Okay.
If they're in what we call a transactional space.
Yep.
In the profession. Those are folks that, I feel are underserved.
Okay.
Especially with how they're being trained. These folks are typically trained and they're given examples of, a company making cars or widgets or something else.
Yeah.
And then they try to use those same tools to help out a business that say rents equipment.
Okay.
It's a difficult transition for a lot of folks, and I feel like there's opportunities to help them.
Okay, excellent. So are these the clients you serve for your new business?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So for the new business that I just started, it's a low risk entry point for businesses to get into continuous improvement.
Okay.
And what that new business does is it looks at their utility spend.
Yeah.
In attempts to lower their utility costs without things like solar panels or LED lights or any of that, no expensive retrofits.
Okay.
Gives a way for a company to experience a continuous improvement project without having a lot of upfront risk.
Okay, got it. So the book, what motivated you to want to write a book in the first place or get a book published this year?
I feel like these folks are really being underserved. The tools that we use in continuous improvement, the tools that you use in Lean Six Sigma,
Yep.
are great tools, but it's often difficult to try to meld them into something that works for transactional business.
Mm-hmm.
The other area that I feel like they're really underserved is when you go through your certification training. Typically, you don't get exposed to how to build a culture, how to motivate executives in a company to actually want to work with you.
Yep.
That can be very troublesome for a new green belt or new black belt, going out there and trying to make a name for themselves in their company and trying to help their company.
Yep.
So I feel like those are areas that I could really help them.
Yep.
Been doing this, been doing continuous improvement now for over 15 years. And I've never worked in the manufacturing space. I've only ever worked in the transactional space.
Yeah.
So, right off the bat, I had to go out and figure out how can I apply these tools and how can I get traction with executives to, give me the permission that I need to actually run a project in their area.
Yep. Okay, good. So going back to, why I always start with the purpose of the book, you can see why this is so important. So is the book primarily, is it going to serve the purpose of your new business, do you think, or will it be separate?
No, I don't think it'll serve the purpose of the new business.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, the people that we're aiming for with the book, I feel like, they're more practitioners or people that would be doing something like that in their business.
Okay. So what would the book do for you personally or for your business then? What would be the objective of it?
I want to help coach and mentor green belts. I do that now in a free Facebook group.
Great. Okay.
I often reach out on LinkedIn. just agree to meet and greet and sit down with folks. I'll get on a Zoom call like we're doing right now.
Yep.
If they're local, I'll just have them over at my house. We'll sit down on the couch and we'll just go over kind of what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. And that's green belt is a certification for Six Sigma, right?
It is. Green belts and black belts are really the folks that I can help, if they've gone through that certification process. Now, one thing that I challenge that isn't super popular in the Six Sigma community is I don't necessarily have a real strong belief in the value of certification. I believe in the tools, but the certification to me is just one small step in that career path.
Yeah. Okay. So what would be the main core thing that you would like to educate someone that is, let's say, a new green belt certified in Six Sigma? What would be the greatest benefit that you could give them throughout the course of a book?
The number one thing I think is that they need to think of themselves almost like an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Which a lot of these folks really aren't taught how to do. They come out of the certification training, and they're expecting projects to just land in their lap because they learn cool tools, and they wait and they wait and they wait, and then they never get to use the tools that they learned. Then it goes rusty and they never use it.
Great. Okay. So how to think, it's a business mindset or mindset like an entrepreneur. What would be another let's just look at 3 topics for now. What would be another topic?
How to use the tools in a transactional environment.
Okay. And one more.
I think how to market yourself, which this is one of the areas that I've struggled with on outlining my book is does that fall under how to think like an entrepreneur? In some ways it does, and in other ways it maybe doesn't.
Yeah, I would say it's separate. So, and here's why. So let's look at, first off, is the purpose of your book. So the book doesn't have to do with your new business, but you have a separate business or like a mentorship program where you can help these guys further. So we want to look at the purpose of the book for you potentially is to feed your coaching and mentorship program. The purpose, going back, there's like 2 sides of the purpose here. The purpose for them is they're a green belt Six Sigma. They are not trained to think like an entrepreneur. They need to know further how to utilize the tools, and they have no idea how to market themselves, right?
Right.
Okay. So that's the overarching purpose. So then we look at structure, and that's what we've kind of done here. So the structure itself, or what are the big picture topics that you would cover in the book that goes back and serves the purpose or the audience that you're looking to work with. All right.
Yeah.
So when you let's look at now chapter elements. So what we would do is when outlining a book, so how to think like an entrepreneur. So we would, basically what you would do is you would imagine yourself as the green belt Six Sigma certified person. What would they need to know for think like an entrepreneur? Not like an employee or something like that. What would they need to know about thinking like an entrepreneur? Just the mindset stuff, do you think?
Well, one of them, I'm a huge fan of the hero's journey.
Yep.
But
okay.
One area that I think we make a mistake often is that we see ourselves as the hero, and really it needs to be the executive needs to be the hero of that story. So that to me would fall under like marketing. Because in marketing, we want our customer to be the hero in the hero's journey, and we're the mentor, the guide in that hero's journey.
Okay, so that would still fall under, let's say, marketing mindset. What would be another thing? What's another component to thinking like an entrepreneur?
Selling. So I tend to think of these things as standard business practice. So selling, how do we sell the idea of a project to an executive in the company?
Yep.
If you go in there talking to them about all the great tools you learned, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to probably walk out without a project,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because those aren't the things that they care about, right?
Right. Yep.
So how to sell to an executive.
Very good. And what would be a third topic?
The next would be the operations side of it. So how are we going to go about running a project
Good.
that delivers on our time promise, delivers on our output promise?
Yep.
Because a lot of times what I hear back from executives that I've worked with or that my people have worked with is, these projects tend to take too long. They need
Yeah.
this now. So how can we go through, the operational side of that business and deliver a result and deliver it the way that the customer expects?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. All right. So then when we're looking at that's what chapter elements are, is now we've got somewhat of a structure to the chapter. Do you have a personal experience of selling to an executive? Because you've done that before, right?
Yes, yeah, a lot of times actually.
Yeah. And thinking
Um,
like an entrepreneur, give me one example of a company that you approached where it worked out because you were thinking like an entrepreneur? Just in a couple of points. Tell me a bit about that.
sure. So I worked for a Fortune 500
Mm-hmm.
um, large business. We had a whole lot of folks working in this field. Um, and what I found very early was that if I approached an executive and told them about, the tools that I'd learned and,
Yep.
how great they are, the conversation usually ended pretty quickly and I didn't come out of there with a project. When I went into an executive and said to them, how can I help you be successful for your goals this year?
Yep.
What are your pain points? Um, what are the ways that I could impact your bonus, which may seem a little bit on the nose, but I had a lot of success with that.
Yeah.
Because if you can help somebody affect their bonus, then odds are, if you have faith in the company, then the bonus is set on the strategic objectives that the company already has.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can help them affect that bonus, then they're generally pretty happy with you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would take small wins out the gate and then build on those small wins. So if I can help an executive in some small way, then they're more likely to let me help them in something much bigger.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And who is an influential person to you that thinks like an entrepreneur? Like, who do you look to as a mentor? Either you know him or you don't know him. It doesn't really matter. But who's an influential person?
Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels.
Good.
I find him super, super influential.
Yep. So that's a good one with marketing mindset. He's big on that.
He really is.
Yep. Okay. Good. And it's sometimes it's hard to come up with this, but maybe there's some kind of data point or statistics are good here. Do you have any statistics about maybe failure rate of Six Sigma certified people? Because you're not a big believer in the certification. So do you have any data points on that? Statistics?
Yeah. I mean, I could probably share in a book kind of results that we experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I guess technically our program is still running at the Fortune 500, but it's not nearly at the scale that it was.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So when we look at now chapter elements, that's what those are. You have a story that you share to connect with your readers and connect with you, that you've got personal experience, and that also helps build credibility. You've got people that you mention so that you can kind of tie that in, and also it's great for JV ventures. So let's say you write your book, you are getting ready to promote and launch it. If you have some kind of like I've met Russell at multiple local events, or not local, but actual events like company events and things like that. If you had a connection with him as well, you could contact him and say, hey, I mentioned you in your book. It'd be cool if you would mention something about it. So you can collaborate with people in that way that are willing to collaborate because you've mentioned them in your book. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
right? And then data and statistics help bring further credibility to what you do because you're providing third-party data just to kind of validate the points that you make.
That makes sense.
Okay, so when you outline a book, if you consider these things in advance, like one of the things that you had mentioned to me is it's just tough with the time, right? Just finding the time to write a book because you're running a business,
Right.
right? It's a very common thing, and what we found is when you structure and you outline your book in this way, like what I have outlined here, when you go to sit and write, you're never sitting with a blank cursor for the first 30 or 40 minutes trying to think about what you're going to write. You already know what you're going to write. Right? So it cuts down on the time that it takes to write. It cuts down on the time that it takes to outline your book. So the whole idea is you want to structure each chapter similar to this, where you've already predetermined what you're going to include in each chapter, and then you do that for each chapter. Then for chapter transitions, what I recommend here is we go how to think like an entrepreneur. At the end of your Think Like an Entrepreneur chapter, it would be, let's say, right here is using the tools you have in the right way. At the end of the chapter, you mentioned something about entrepreneurs are great. You can think the right way, but if you have the tools and you don't know how to use them, it's like having a Ferrari without the keys, right? And then because you need to know how to use the tools that you have. And then you end the chapter. And then in the next chapter, they go, yeah, I do need to learn about the tools. And then the next chapter is all about using the tools you have, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you create a seamless transition there. So this tool that we've created is to help give you the elements of all those different things. So you want to outline thinking like an entrepreneur right here in this template, using the tools. And then what the third one was, marketing yourself. You would do the same thing for marketing yourself in this chapter area. And then what do you believe are the pillars to marketing yourself properly as a Six Sigma certified person? Then you've got your book purpose. You can kind of explore a little bit deeper later. Your golden thread is the main message you want to communicate to these people, which is basically you need to think like an entrepreneur when you're going about doing this, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the main things. Then you outline each of the chapters with the different points, and then you brainstorm what stories you'll share, if there are any metaphors or examples that you can give people, what data points make sense to include, and then who are the people that you could mention throughout the course of your book. Either you know them and you have a connection or not. It's really helpful to mention people. You could put quotes from people, and it just kind of subconsciously adds validity to what you do. I think that's why a lot of people in their books, chapter 1, they'll put a quote from like Richard Branson. Now, Richard Branson would never promote any of these guys, but because you're quoting him, it brings validity, maybe about entrepreneurship or business growth or some kind of quote that he said. It just kind of brings a little bit of validity to what you have with including a quote,
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. So that's what I recommend for your book outline is look at each chapter kind of as an individual element, and then think of them in silos. So thinking like an entrepreneur is its own topic, and then you want to break it apart, include the story, the people, any kind of statistics, and then have some sort of a transition. All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's pretty much it for our coaching call here today. I'd like to know, what was insightful for you? What did you get most out of this?
Kind of how you took the ideas and turned them into chapter outlines.
Yes.
That was big for me. I think that's one of the areas I was really stuck on. Yeah, that was super helpful, Jeremy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it. What else? How else do you think you could apply that as you start? Because you're right now in the early phases, right? You're just starting to kind of get everything going, getting everything together, starting to outline it.
Yeah. I've I guess I've had several failed attempts.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. So yeah, super early right now. I think next step for me is to go out and try to outline this thing. Use that template that you have, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start hammering away.
Excellent. Sounds good. Yeah, you can get this download on the YouTube description below this video, and you already have my other video, Attila. So you can get the PDF download. Just download it, fill it out, and then also we have a monthly coaching program right now where we're doing basically a $1 trial where we can coach you along. You know, we provide some writing coaching, starting thinking through building your expert platform, using your book as a tool to get speaking engagements and things like that. So I'll link that up below the video as well. But just let me know, like keep me updated how your outline's coming along.
We'll do. That sounds like a heck of a deal for people. That
Yeah.
$1 trial, man. Yeah,
it's a great
awesome.
program. So hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Awesome. Glad it was beneficial. Thanks, Attila, for hopping on here. Great to hear what you're doing. You're doing some great stuff because those folks out there, it's like they sink or swim, right? They've got to figure out marketing. Otherwise, they can't get clients and their business suffers. So I think you're doing great stuff out there as well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, Attila. Thanks, buddy. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time.